Ashwood, Ohio, was the kind of small American town where everybody seemed to know everybody. Tree-lined streets stretched through quiet neighborhoods, and most residents had lived there for decades. Among them was the Carter family, who had become a familiar and respected part of the community. Michael Carter worked as an electrical technician for a manufacturing company just outside town, while his wife, Rebecca, taught third grade at a local elementary school. Their children, 14-year-old Emily and 10-year-old Jacob, were known as bright, friendly kids who participated in school activities and neighborhood events. To outsiders, the Carters appeared to be living the American dream in a peaceful suburban home on Maple Creek Road. On October 14, 1997, the family followed what seemed like a completely normal routine. Michael returned home from work shortly after 5 p.m., greeting neighbors as he pulled into the driveway. Rebecca had spent the afternoon helping Emily prepare for a school presentation, while Jacob was busy playing basketball with friends down the street. That evening, the family decided to enjoy dinner outside in their backyard. Several neighbors later told investigators they saw the Carters laughing together around a small barbecue grill. Nothing about their behavior appeared unusual. No arguments were heard, no strange visitors were seen, and no signs suggested that anything was wrong. As darkness settled over Ashwood, the neighborhood became quiet. Porch lights flickered on, televisions glowed through windows, and families settled in for the evening. Around 8:30 p.m., a neighbor walking his dog passed the Carter house and noticed Michael standing near the backyard fence. The two exchanged a brief wave before the neighbor continued on his walk. This would become the last confirmed sighting of any member of the Carter family. Later that night, another resident reported seeing lights on inside the house around 10 p.m., but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The home looked exactly as it always had. The next morning began with subtle signs that something wasn't right. Rebecca failed to arrive at school before classes started, something her co-workers found highly unusual because she was known for always being punctual. Around the same time, Michael's employer noticed he hadn't shown up for work and hadn't called to explain his absence. When Emily and Jacob failed to appear at school, teachers initially assumed the family might be dealing with a personal emergency. However, as the hours passed and repeated phone calls went unanswered, concern quickly grew among relatives and friends. By late afternoon, Rebecca's sister drove to the house to check on the family personally. As she approached the property, she immediately sensed something strange. Michael's pickup truck sat in the driveway exactly where it had been parked the previous evening. Rebecca's sedan was still in the garage. The curtains remained partially open, and a television could be seen flickering inside the living room. Yet despite knocking repeatedly and calling out their names, nobody responded. When she tried the front door, she discovered it was unlocked. What awaited inside would trigger one of the most baffling missing person investigations in Ohio history. When police officers entered the Carter home on the evening of October 15, 1997, they expected to find a reasonable explanation for the family's absence. Instead, they stepped into a scene that immediately raised more questions than answers. The house appeared perfectly normal at first glance. The living room television was still on, broadcasting a daytime talk show to an empty room. A half-finished puzzle sat on the coffee table, and a folded blanket rested neatly on the couch. There were no signs of forced entry, broken windows, or overturned furniture. Everything looked as though the family had simply stepped away for a moment and never returned. As detectives moved through the kitchen, the mystery deepened. 4 breakfast plates were arranged on the dining table, each containing small amounts of food that had long since gone stale. A carton of orange juice sat open on the counter, while a coffee mug belonging to Michael Carter remained beside the sink. Investigators estimated that breakfast preparations had begun that morning, suggesting the family had still been inside the house after waking up. Yet there was no indication of where they had gone afterward. Rebecca's purse remained on a kitchen chair with cash, credit cards, and her driver's license untouched inside. Most people fleeing voluntarily would never leave behind such important belongings. The bedrooms revealed equally troubling details. Michael's wallet rested on his nightstand beside his wristwatch, while Rebecca's jewelry remained untouched in a dresser drawer. Emily's school backpack had already been packed for classes, complete with homework assignments she had finished the previous evening. Jacob's favorite baseball cap hung from a hook near his bedroom door. Investigators found no packed suitcases, travel plans, or notes suggesting the family intended to leave town. Their passports were still locked inside a filing cabinet, and every indication pointed to the fact that the Carters had expected to continue their normal lives. During a detailed search of the basement, detectives noticed something unusual that had initially gone overlooked. Near the far wall, One section of the concrete floor appeared slightly newer than the surrounding surface. The difference was subtle, but experienced investigators recognized that the patch had likely been poured years after the original foundation. When questioned, neighbors could not recall seeing construction crews or repair work at the property. Curious about what might lie beneath, authorities brought in equipment to break through the concrete. Officers carefully removed chunks of flooring, expecting to uncover hidden evidence, a storage area, or perhaps something directly connected to the disappearance. Instead, they found only packed dirt beneath the repaired section, with no obvious explanation for why the concrete had been replaced. While examining the area, investigators made another unsettling discovery. Several residents living nearby reported hearing strange sounds coming from the Carter property during late-night hours in the months before the disappearance. Some described faint metallic clanking noises, while others recalled hearing what sounded like distant machinery operating underground. One neighbor even claimed he occasionally felt slight vibrations beneath his home during the middle of the night. At the time, these incidents had seemed insignificant, but as detectives compared statements, they began to suspect that whatever had happened to the Carter family might be connected to something hidden beneath the house itself. In the weeks following the Carter family's disappearance, Ashwood became the center of a massive investigation. Local police worked alongside state authorities and federal agents, determined to find answers. Search teams combed through nearby forests, fields, rivers, and abandoned buildings. Helicopters flew over rural areas surrounding the town while volunteers distributed thousands of missing person flyers across Ohio and neighboring states. Every lead, no matter how small, was pursued. The disappearance of an entire family without a single witness or obvious clue was unlike anything investigators had ever encountered, and the pressure to solve the case grew stronger with each passing day. As news of the mystery spread across America, tips began pouring in from every corner of the country. Some callers claimed they had spotted members of the Carter family at gas stations, shopping centers, or bus terminals hundreds of miles away. Others insisted they had seen the family traveling under different names. Detectives spent countless hours investigating these reports, chasing possible sightings from Florida to California. Each lead generated brief moments of hope, but every one eventually ended in disappointment. Witnesses had either mistaken strangers for the Carters or provided information that could not be verified. Despite the enormous effort, the family remained missing. Without evidence pointing in a clear direction, theories began to multiply. Some investigators believed the family had been abducted by an organized criminal group. Others wondered if Michael Carter's work as an electrical technician had somehow exposed him to dangerous individuals. There were also rumors that the family had entered a witness protection program, though federal authorities denied any involvement. Local residents developed their own explanations. Some believed the family had discovered a secret they were never supposed to know, while others suspected someone within the town was hiding crucial information. The lack of answers allowed speculation to spread rapidly. As months turned into years, the investigation gradually lost momentum. New cases demanded attention, and the Carter file grew thicker with unanswered questions. Detectives assigned to the case retired or transferred to other departments. Boxes filled with reports, photographs, witness statements, and maps were eventually moved into storage. Although authorities officially kept the investigation open, fewer resources were devoted to it. The disappearance became known as one of Ohio's most puzzling cold cases. Television documentaries occasionally revisited the story, bringing brief bursts of public interest, but no breakthrough ever followed. Meanwhile, the Carter house stood abandoned on Maple Creek Road, slowly becoming a source of fascination and fear within Ashwood. Overgrown weeds consumed the yard, paint peeled from the exterior walls, and broken shutters rattled during storms. Teenagers often dared each other to sneak inside after dark, eager to explore the place where an entire family had seemingly vanished. Many claimed they experienced strange things while inside. Some reported hearing faint echoes beneath the basement floor, while others described distant footsteps or metallic noises coming from somewhere underground. Most adults dismissed these stories as imagination fueled by the house's dark reputation. But the rumors persisted year after year, keeping the mystery alive long after the official investigation had faded from public attention. By 2019, the Carter house had become little more than a decaying landmark in Ashwood. More than 2 decades had passed since the family disappeared, and the property had changed ownership several times through legal proceedings and bank transfers. No one had ever lived there for very long. The home's connection to one of Ohio's most famous unsolved mysteries made many potential buyers uncomfortable. Years of neglect had taken a visible toll on the structure. The roof showed signs of damage, the basement suffered from moisture problems, and thick vines had begun climbing the exterior walls. Most residents assumed the house would eventually be demolished. That year, a real estate investor named Daniel Harper purchased the property at a discounted price. Daniel specialized in restoring old homes and turning them into profitable investments. Unlike many locals, he wasn't particularly interested in the Carter mystery. To him, the house represented a business opportunity. After completing the purchase, he hired a construction crew and began planning extensive renovations. The project started with basic repairs, including replacing damaged flooring, reinforcing support beams, and inspecting the foundation. Everything seemed routine until workers reached the basement and encountered something they couldn't explain. While examining the foundation, contractors noticed unusual hollow sounds beneath certain sections of the floor. At first, they suspected hidden water damage or underground erosion. Concerned about the structural stability of the house, Daniel hired an engineering company to perform a detailed inspection. The engineers brought specialized equipment, including ground-penetrating radar capable of detecting empty spaces beneath concrete and soil. When the first scans appeared on their monitors, confusion quickly spread among the team. Beneath the basement floor were several large voids that should not have existed under a standard residential foundation. The engineers conducted additional scans over the following days, expanding their survey beyond the basement. The results became increasingly alarming. What initially appeared to be isolated empty spaces were actually connected passages extending far beyond the property line. The radar images revealed a complex underground network running beneath multiple areas surrounding the Carter home. Some passages stretched toward nearby woods, while others appeared to branch beneath neighboring properties. The system was far larger than anyone expected and did not match any known utility maps, systems, or public infrastructure records maintained by the town. Realizing the potential significance of the discovery, Daniel immediately contacted local authorities. News spread rapidly through Ashwood as police, engineers, and investigators gathered at the property. Many longtime residents were stunned to learn that hidden structures existed beneath the house where the Carter family had vanished. State officials soon arrived to assess the situation, and access to the property was restricted. Temporary fencing surrounded the area while experts reviewed the radar data. For the first time in 22 years, investigators connected to the Carter case felt they might finally have uncovered something capable of explaining the family's mysterious disappearance. The discovery transformed what had been a forgotten cold case into a major investigation once again. The discovery of the Carter family's names inside the tunnels transformed the investigation overnight. What had begun as a routine property renovation was now a full-scale historical and criminal inquiry. Authorities started digging through decades of town records, construction permits, property deeds, and archived newspapers, searching for any reference to the underground network. At first, very little information surfaced. It was as though the tunnels had been intentionally erased from official history. However, after weeks of research, investigators uncovered a collection of forgotten documents stored in a county archive. The records pointed to a wealthy industrialist named Harold Whitmore, one of Ashwood's most influential figures during the 1940s. According to the documents, Whitmore had secretly financed a massive underground construction project during World War II. Publicly, the project was described as a series of emergency shelters designed to protect residents in the event of a national crisis. The plans presented to local officials showed only a handful of small underground chambers. But engineers comparing those blueprints to the newly discovered tunnel system quickly realized that the official records represented only a fraction of what had actually been built. Hidden beneath Ashwood was a much larger network that had never been disclosed to the public. Entire sections of the tunnels were missing from every government document investigators could find. As researchers dug deeper into Whitmore's history, disturbing rumors began resurfacing. Elderly residents recalled stories their parents had told them decades earlier. Some claimed trucks were seen entering construction sites late at night, carrying unknown cargo underground. Others spoke of workers who were paid unusually high wages but warned never to discuss what they were building. Newspaper clippings from the late 1940s mentioned allegations of illegal smuggling operations in the region, though no arrests were ever made. Historians began to suspect that the tunnels had served purposes far beyond emergency preparedness. The hidden passages may have been used to transport valuable goods, conduct secret meetings, or move people without attracting attention. Meanwhile, exploration teams continued mapping the underground maze. Deep within one isolated chamber, investigators discovered a collection of objects preserved by the cool, dry environment. The items appeared untouched for years. Among them were children's toys, old clothing, books, family photographs, and several personal belongings that were positively identified as property of the Carter family. Emily's school notebook was found inside a metal storage box. Jacob's favorite baseball glove rested beneath a dusty blanket. Nearby sat a framed family photograph that had once hung in the Carter living room. The discovery confirmed beyond any doubt that the missing family had spent time underground after disappearing from their house. What made the finding even more unsettling was the absence of any human remains. Despite extensive searches, investigators found no evidence suggesting the family had died within the tunnel system. Instead, the chamber looked almost like a temporary living space. There were signs of organization, including neatly arranged supplies and makeshift sleeping areas. Some items appeared to have been used months after the family's disappearance, based on dates written inside notebooks and on food packaging recovered from the site. These details suggested the Carters had remained alive underground for a significant period of time. As investigators examined every object and every corner of the hidden chamber, one question continued to dominate the case. If the family had been living beneath Ashwood, who had brought them there, and why had they never returned to the surface? As investigators pushed farther into the deepest sections of the tunnel network, they discovered an area that had clearly been designed to remain hidden. Behind a collapsed stone wall at the end of a narrow corridor, engineers detected a hollow space that did not appear on any of their maps. After carefully removing debris, they uncovered a heavy steel door covered in rust and dust. The door had no handle on the outside and appeared to have been concealed intentionally. It took several hours to force it open. When the door finally swung inward, investigators stepped into a large underground chamber unlike anything they had seen before. Shelves lined the walls, metal cabinets stood in neat rows, and dozens of boxes were stacked throughout the room. It looked less like a forgotten tunnel and more like a secret archive that had remained untouched for decades. Inside the chamber, authorities found thousands of documents, photographs, maps, and handwritten journals dating back more than 50 years. As forensic teams began examining the materials, a disturbing picture slowly emerged. The journals described the activities of a secret organization that had operated beneath Ashwood for generations. Its members included influential businessmen, property owners, and individuals whose names appeared throughout the town's history. According to the records, the tunnels were used to conduct meetings, transport contraband, hide valuable assets, and carry out activities that could never be exposed to the public. The organization had spent decades protecting its existence, and anyone who accidentally discovered the tunnels was considered a threat. Among the documents were surveillance photographs that immediately captured investigators' attention. Several images showed the Carter family during the weeks leading up to their disappearance. Some photographs had been taken from hidden positions near their home, while others appeared to show members of the family being watched while shopping, attending school events, or walking through town. Detectives were shocked to realize that the Carters had been under surveillance long before they vanished. Additional journal entries revealed that Michael Carter had unknowingly discovered a concealed access point while performing repairs in the basement of his home. Curious about the unusual structure hidden behind a wall, he had reportedly begun investigating it on his own, unaware that he was exposing a secret that powerful individuals had protected for decades. The journals described what happened next in chilling detail. Once members of the organization learned that the Carter family had discovered evidence of the tunnels, they viewed the family as a serious risk. The records suggested that plans were made to prevent the information from reaching law enforcement. According to several entries, the family was secretly taken into the underground network during the night and held in a secure section of the tunnels while leaders debated what to do with them. Some members reportedly argued that the family should never be allowed to leave, while others believed harming innocent people would create unnecessary danger for the organization. The disagreement grew increasingly intense over the following months, creating divisions among individuals who had worked together for years. As investigators continued reading through the journals, they uncovered evidence that a faction within the organization eventually decided to help the Carter family escape. Several entries referred to a covert operation in which the family was guided through a series of remote passages leading far beyond Ashwood's boundaries. Maps recovered from the chamber identified multiple exits hidden in forests, abandoned farms, and isolated rural areas miles from town. The final references to the Carters suggested they were escorted to one of these exits under the cover of darkness. After that point, the records became vague and incomplete. Names were crossed out, pages were missing, and key details appeared to have been deliberately removed. What remained was a fragmented trail hinting that the family had reached the surface somewhere far from Ashwood, while those responsible for helping them disappeared from the organization's records entirely. Even after the hidden tunnels were uncovered and the secret chamber revealed, one haunting mystery remained unsolved. What truly happened to the Carter family after they escaped into the darkness of that underground maze? Did Michael, Rebecca, Emily, and Jacob manage to start a new life somewhere far from Ashwood, forever hiding from the people who had held them captive? Or did something happen to them before they could reach safety? To this day, no one knows for certain. The discovery beneath their house answered many questions, but it also created new ones. It exposed a secret that had been buried beneath Ashwood for generations and revealed how far some people were willing to go to protect it. What seemed like an impossible disappearance in 1997 turned out to be connected to a hidden world that existed right beneath the town's streets. Today, the Carter house no longer stands, but the tunnels remain sealed by authorities. The journals, photographs, and evidence recovered from underground are preserved as part of one of Ohio's most chilling investigations. Yet despite years of research and countless theories, the final chapter of the Carter family's story has never been written. And perhaps the most terrifying thought of all is this. If those tunnels had remained undiscovered, the truth would have stayed buried forever beneath an ordinary house on an ordinary street, waiting silently in the darkness, keeping its secrets hidden for another generation. Because sometimes, the scariest mysteries aren't the ones that disappear, they are the ones hiding right beneath your feet.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.